we're going to be speaking with founders, creators, the true disruptivators in their industry. That's who we looked for.
And so the first investment I ever made was in myself, right? I had some savings, and the entire point of having savings is to be able to have it so you can use it when you need it.
We're going to tell you more about who the CFPB is, and also will that include paying for college and understanding credit. And we're going to also tell you how we listen to consumers and how that helps us.
If you're thinking about something and you're like, oh no, that don't make sense, go for it anyway. And what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen?
You can't be free if the cost of being you is too high. And one thing we have to talk about is credit.
I think it's just go in front of people, be yourself. What I love about real estate, you can be yourself.
You know, I met some of my colleagues, and we're here to give you some advice on directional advice on your careers. So whatever you're into, and go for it. Go for it.
Yes. Let me just tell you, first of all, I am so excited to be on the stage and talking to real people. So my typical audience is ages 14 to 25, and for the last 2 years, it's been 14 to 25-year-olds on Zoom, so that means black screens, right? Because they don't like to turn their cameras on. So I'm just excited to be able to be here and talk to you guys about what I do with Usher's New Look and how we might be able to help you. And in the meantime, you know, hopefully we'll all just kind of learn a little bit more about the process, right? So thank you for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here. For those of you that don't already know, Usher's New Look is a 501c3 that was established by Usher Raymond, the entertainer, about 23 years ago. And let me take this off because that's a distraction. There we go. About 23 years ago, after he had spent the day in Judge Hatchett's juvenile courtroom, and he had spent the day with his mom because his mom said, I think you need to get a different perspective. You're starting to blow up. And yeah, I'm gonna have to bring you back down for just a second before you get too crazy. And so he went and spent the day in the courtroom and realized, he said, Mom, my biggest takeaway from spending the day and seeing these young kids go through the process is that it wasn't that they were bad kids or anything like that. It was just that they needed a new look on life. They needed to know what was possible. They needed to know that there were options out there, that they needed to know that there were other things that they could expose themselves to except for what's right there in their community. And so they established Usher's New Look, and we have been rocking for 23 years, doing leadership training and exposure opportunities. And so I was fortunate enough to come on the team about 5 years ago to create the financial literacy curriculum after a really generous grant from the SunTrust Now Truist Foundation. And so one of the things that I want to talk to you guys a little bit about is kind of my motivation. The idea behind creating this financial literacy curriculum was to prevent financial quicksand. I don't know if you guys have heard that coined term before, but the idea is that a lot of our youth in high school, and I hope I'm not talking to anyone, but the youth in high school, we start with these when we're younger. We have some questionable spending habits, right? And when we graduate from high school and we move on to young adulthood, those questionable spending habits end up getting us into a lot of debt, right? Then we end up with poor credit. Then we end up with what we call as an expensive life. And so then we have to spend 10 years or so trying to dig ourselves out of that quicksand. I'm saying our because I don't know what part of that story kind of hit you, but I'll just take it with you, right? And so my idea was not to just bring a typical financial literacy curriculum to the youth, but to really passionately help prevent them from going through this quicksand. And in an effort to do that, I was also going to help break that cycle of poverty. Now, how do I know that my youth are dealing with poverty? Well, I really got to know them. And because of the way that we proceeded with our program, we were able to be quite effective. So I want to ask you, for those of you that already have an existing financial literacy curriculum, or perhaps you're considering one, how effective are you? How effective is the program? Going beyond spreadsheets and budget sheets and worksheets and flashcards, how effective is the program? Well, I'll tell you, our program is 100% effective. And we know that through the evaluations that our youth take. They take pre and post exams at the beginning and the end of the school years. We're able to talk to them through focus groups and really listen to them and their stories and how much they've learned. And then the best part of measuring effectiveness is watching our youth grow year after year. So one of the ideas behind creating the curriculum, I knew that I didn't want to just walk into the classroom and share with the youth what I knew that they needed to know. We, as adults, know what the kids need to learn. We know what financial literacy looks like, but I didn't know them. And so really, could I really be effective if I didn't know who I was teaching or what they needed to learn or maybe how they learned? So I took a step back before I started just writing out the lessons that they needed to go through. And I really got to know our youth. I spent time with them, just asking them questions, getting to know them. This is a group of our college students, and I got to sit with them and talk to them about their money story. Where did they come from? What was their relationship with money? What did they already know? What had their parents taught them? What did they learn in the community? What did their friends tell them about money? And then even better, I asked them about financial goals, which they were totally unfamiliar with. What do you mean a financial goal? You know, I got to talk to them, say, yeah, what are you aspiring to do with money? How is money going to help you as a tool to get to that next level in your life? Well, they had never considered money as a tool necessarily. It was to buy Jordans and to eat at Chick-fil-A. It was really simple, right? But to think that they could actually build wealth. And I said, you know, I asked them, what kinds of things are you doing now? How are you building wealth for the future? How are you going to get there? How are you planning for college? Are you going to finish college? Is that going to be a struggle? And I was able to identify the needs. And then I could consider what curriculum I needed to write for them. And I found that some of them were struggling, like I said earlier, to finance college. They needed to fund their college dreams. They needed to finish school. So I realized, ooh, I need to add a First Friday scholarship check-in so we can talk about scholarship development and help them, and not just help them one time, but I need to help them every month. I need to check in with them every month because they need some accountability, right? And I was able to get to know our youth. So in addition to talking to them, once I figured out, okay, this is who my youth are, this is how they identify, here's the things that they already know, let me see, there's no way I can do this by myself. So I tapped into my resources. I tapped into my network. Now let me tell you, Usher's New Look has a tremendous, amazing, incredible network of professionals. But if you think about it, we all do. You all have a relationship possibly with a local banker. Or you all know a local entrepreneur in your community. Or you all know a fireman or a police officer that maybe has a great money story. So there's different ways that your network can actually pour into what it is that you're building. Can you believe that? Because we may have thought financial literacy curriculum, oh, if I need help and I need a network, I need to go to financial advisors for everything. No, because we all have a money story to tell. We didn't all just end up where we are right now. There was a journey that went with it. And so I was able to tap into our resources, to our network, and actually build a greater network. So here you have in these pictures, at the top picture, we were at Ellevest, the headquarters of Ellevest. I don't know how many of us know about Ellevest, but the Women's Investment Group. And that wasn't Ellevest. Where was that? That was Compass, one of the largest real estate companies in the country. So we got a chance to tap into their executive leadership team that's pictured here. We had a conference with Hill Harper, who was as the facilitator, and then we also got to speak with a panel of their back-end website developers. How did that tie into money and financial literacy? Because each of them had a different money story. Some of them talked to us about investing, some of us just talked about their personal finances. It was amazing. The picture below, we went and supported a local business in Harlem and went to Melba's for dinner, but we didn't just go eat dinner. If you notice, there's a suit and tie at every table. So I took the youth to dinner because we had to eat, but I invited a variety of leaders in their community. So we had a real estate broker, we had a financial advisor, we had a little bit of everything at each table. So the youth got an opportunity to talk finance with everyone, because we all have a story to talk about. This last one is us at the headquarters of Goldman Sachs. Pretty incredible, right? But we all have banks around. We don't have to go to the headquarters of Goldman Sachs. Use what you have, right? But I want to pause here just a moment because I have to talk about Sydney. Sydney's right there in the black dress in the middle, and I'm not going to tear up when I talk about her, but she's incredible. I met Sydney when she was in the 10th grade, and she told me, you know, I was really uncomfortable talking about money because I didn't learn about money, and you were teaching us things that I felt like I was supposed to know, but I just really wasn't comfortable talking about it. And so she went through curriculum. She attended literally every session. Those first Friday scholarship check-ins, she came. When we did financial literacy in our leadership academy, she came. When we had travel opportunities, she came. She became one of the most popular and most successful FinLit trainers, one of our peer-led model trainers, our peer-to-peer trainers, and she ended up coming with me to teach the younger youth about money. Because she was learning it, and teaching it was the best way to learn, to teach it, right? But she was learning it, she was taking it all in. She went on our Follow the Money tour here in New York. She got to meet with these financial advisors, and they sat on a panel and talked about their personal financial journey, their educational journey, their career journey, because they didn't just get to the headquarters. They didn't get to the top floor of Goldman Sachs like overnight, right? They had to do something to get there. So they talked to them about that, and she soaked it all in. Well, now, 2 years, now it's been, well, I guess 4 years later now, she's in her second year at Bard College as a Posse Scholar. So you guys know that means school's paid for. She's taken on a lot of peer-to-peer training model sessions with me, including one where she was able to open her first mutual fund. She obviously has a checking and a savings account. And this girl has the nerve to have financial goals and is building a wealth portfolio. Last week, she texted me and she said, Ms. Jessica, I just want you to know I met with Dennis and he said to say hi. And I text her back, why are you meeting with Dennis? Do you know who Dennis is? Dennis is this guy at the headquarters of Goldman Sachs that she met back in 2019. She met with Dennis because she said, well, it was time for me to really start building my portfolio, and he had offered free financial advisement. And when I talked to him, he said that he would agree to also speak to the other peers in my group at Bard College. Is our program effective? Yep, I'm gonna go with yeah. I'm gonna go with yeah, because that's the long term. So once you've understood your audience, okay, we're good. We know who we're teaching. We know kind of how the approach that we need to take. You've tapped into your resources. That's great. Network is growing. It'll grow as the more good work that you do. Now it's time to really dig deep and get in that curriculum. Now, basic financial literacy curriculum is, do they know how to budget? Can they track their spending? Do they know how to manage their debt or eliminate it or just prevent it, right? And then do they have basic understanding of how to prepare for retirement? You check those boxes, they're financially lit, sort of, right? So my idea was, wait a minute, got to take it way beyond that, and I need them to really grasp these concepts. So yes, that's fine, I'll teach them, but we've got to do more. So I just want to show you, this picture is not just a really cool picture, fun picture. This is our Leadership Academy in Atlanta at our Spark Center. This is youth on a Saturday. They came up to the Spark Center so I could talk to them about banking. Yep, we talked about savings accounts at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And it was fun. And then after we did some topics, we talked about some terms and things like that. We had a hands-on activity. Jason and David walked in. Now, I don't know if you can't see their shirts, but these are some of the top financial advisors in Atlanta with SunTrust, now Truist Bank. They literally manage billions of dollars of money for those that were prepared and are now considered wealthy. And so they came in and had a discussion with the youth that yes, we're from SunTrust, and yes, it starts with a simple bank account, and yes, you have to have saving, but look at what you could do. Look at what's possible. Do you see how attentive those youth are? After we had this roundtable discussion, they were able to ask them questions about their personal finances, their careers, their education. What was it how did it feel to manage $3 billion of money, you know? We decided, well, again, we had to eat because it was 12, and you know I like to take my kids to eat. So we went across the street, we had lunch, and next door to the place we had lunch was a branch, a SunTrust branch. So I had already arranged this. It's not like we just walked in on them with this big group of 30. But after lunch, we walked in and we got a tour of the bank. And the bankers sat there. How many of you have a local bank near you, right? Is this accessible to anybody? Yes. So we go into the bank, they give them a tour, they break down the accounts. Now remember, the youth had just learned all this. So not only had they learned it, but now they talked to people that were doing it on a big scale, and now they're seeing it. They're in the bank. Take them to the bank, right? So for some of them, it was their first time going inside of a bank. Okay, are we effective? Yeah, I think so. So I want to share with you 3 simple things, and this is really the nitty-gritty of how I develop the curriculum and how we actually give it to them, right? And it's similar to what I just shared on the previous slide, but the first thing that we do is we build that interest, right? Building out that curriculum is illustrating why they need to learn. Why do they need to understand whatever it is that you're going to teach them? Why do they need to understand credit? I'll tell you, my favorite activity with credit is showing them a spreadsheet of a budget for 3 different people. Somebody with average credit, somebody with awesome credit, and somebody with bad credit. And I show them they have the same job, the same car, and they live in the same apartment. Yet they have completely different lifestyles because of the choices that they made with their credit. That's huge. But that's just a quick activity that we do. But it's a great illustration to show them, this is why I'm going to teach you about credit, and this is why you need to listen. Because which of these 3 people do you want to be? I'll tell you right now, my other favorite peer trainer is Denise Ann. This girl gets on every plane except for this one that I flew to get here. She goes everywhere with me. She too, she started when she was in high school. She went through our program. She's one of the ones that helped me actually write our curriculum. And the reason why you saw her on those first, second, or third picture, because she was sitting at that round table when she was sharing her money story with me, and she said, Ms. Jessica, I don't know anything about money. I just never learned anything. And so we did even a one-on-one session where I just asked her some basic skills. Are you budgeting? Because she was in her first year of college. So I was like, okay, do you have a budget? No. Okay. Do you have a bank account? She had a prepaid account for her paycheck from her part-time job at the grocery store to go into this prepaid account, but it wasn't a real bank account at a financial institution. Okay, so we got to do that. We need a budget. Okay. Do you know what your credit score is? I don't know. And I've never looked at a credit report. Okay, all right, so we need to do that too. Okay, that sounds good. You said you work at Publix, right? That's a local grocery chain that's pretty amazing. Their part-time workers they give them a 401k. Do you have the 401k? What's that? All right, so I explained what the 401k was, and she said, oh, you know what, when I got hired, they had asked me if I wanted money taken out of my paycheck, and I told them no. Okay. So obviously we had a lot of things to do with Denise Ann, but how amazing of a peer trainer is she now? Because she gets to share that story. Do you think if she shares that story with those youth that are sitting there in that picture at one of our Powered by Service one-day leadership trainings, do you think when she breaks it down, do you think they're going to listen to her and what she has to teach us? I'm thinking so, right? She was able to relate, they were able to relate, and she's able to share her story, which is now, this is a couple of years ago, so now she's a successful entrepreneur. She's graduating from college. She teaches my business model campus entrepreneurship workshop like no one else could do, and she's successful. She budgets, she has separate bank accounts. She has an 800 credit score. She's ready for home ownership in just a few years because she applied the stuff that we were teaching. So after you've illustrated and you've got them like really connected and they're like ready to start listening, now it's time to do the introduction. And this is that basic stuff that I was talking about, right? Do they understand budgeting? Do they understand credit? Tracking their spending habits? This is the time for instruction. The only problem is you got to be careful when you're giving this, because a lot of times with other organizations or other activities, we bring these really intelligent bankers to come in and teach them, and the problem is that they don't understand the terms. So you got to make sure that you are all speaking the same language of money. Let me tell you who really explains the language of money. Dante. Dante is one of our first generation college, graduates. I used to call him a student, but he graduated. So we're pretty excited about him. Again, No basic understanding of financial literacy, no understanding of personal financial management, no idea what an opportunity fund was or an emergency fund, was not thinking about his credit until he graduated from college, well before, because he started being a peer-to-peer trainer, but he realized he needed all of that information so that he could start building his business. And now, it's a year after he's graduated from college, building his business, right? Credit score, access to capital. He didn't know what capital was. He didn't know he was going to need capital. He didn't know how to access capital for his business. But through this process, he was able to. So is he able to explain capital, gross versus net income, variable expenses versus fixed expenses? And can he break it down to this little young 8th grader? Yep, very well, because he's lived it, he's done it. So we've gone through an illustration. We've introduced the terms to them. We take them through what it means. This is how the process works. And now is my favorite part, apply the knowledge. Remember that example I told you about when I had them come on Saturday morning and teach them about banking? I couldn't believe how many kids showed up, by the way. I don't know if it's because I offered breakfast and lunch or what. I don't know what the incentive was, but we had standing room only. You saw how many kids were in that room. We went through the process, we introduced, we gave them the concept, they built it, and then what did we do besides eat lunch? We took them to the bank so that they could apply the knowledge we had just taught them. So application, is there an opportunity for the youth to actually implement what you're teaching them? Don't drop a whole bunch of information and then walk away. They've got to have a way to implement it and practice it and access it. That's the only way that it works. So these pictures here, you kind of saw a few of the snippets in our Follow the Money highlight sizzle reel, but that was our Follow the Money tour where we did Washington, D.C. and New York, week-long trips where we were able to spend time with executives, like we mentioned from Goldman Sachs, successful entrepreneurs. We went to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which I didn't think the youth were going to like, and they actually really loved it. Probably because they understood the basics of credit before we got there. So it wasn't over their head. They actually appreciated it. I was really surprised, wasn't I? So my idea behind all of this is I've just been continuously creating more and more opportunities to implement the things that they're learning. So we've created things. We had Powered by Service, which was our one-day leadership training, but now we've stepped it up and amped it up with financial literacy education during that training. We've got a virtual entrepreneur crawl and an in-person entrepreneur crawl where we take the youth around to meet local business owners so that they can understand the process of entrepreneurship. Not just teaching it, but doing it. What does it look like? What is the process? How do you do it? How are you successful? What were some of your struggles? We're not just talking about entrepreneurship, but we're launching a Ready, Set, Launch Youth Business Accelerator where we'll teach youth and take them through the entire process with mentors and access to capital. We've got our Disruptivator Club because we know that youth around the country can't be in Atlanta or New York or wherever we are in person sometimes. So we offer all of our services online through our Disruptivator Club. And then lastly, Jessica's favorite, Money Spark Day. Money Spark Day we can take anywhere on the road because we're able to offer it to youth all over the country, teaching them these same skills and giving them online, in-person activities, hands-on ways for them to apply the knowledge that we teach them. And that's how we really get it done. So I'm gonna ask you, take this away, where will financial literacy take your group of youth? Whoever it is that you're working with. I've told you about some of our youth. Lastly, I'm gonna close out with Roderick because he's incredible. Roderick started with us in the 9th grade. He started taking financial literacy in the curriculum his 10th grade year. He took it. He came to all of my First Friday scholarship check-ins. He came to the expo, the college expo that we went on. He started building his savings account, his checking account. He came to my investment workshop, so he was able to start that mutual fund. He was able to, he turned 18, his senior year of high school, so he started working on his credit. How many 18-year-old seniors in high school are caring about their credit? He was, because he had big dreams and he had big financial goals. And so fast forward, now he's in his 2nd year at Alabama State on a full scholarship. But remember, he was applying for scholarships because he was coming to my First Friday scholarship check-in. And so with those monies, with those private scholarship dollars that he didn't need for his classes, he put into a mutual fund. He grew the account so large that now, and he has an 820 credit score. He's now preparing for home ownership. He's gonna purchase an investment property near his campus so that he can live the last 2 years off campus and have his roommates help pay his mortgage. That's pretty amazing to me. It's pretty amazing to me. And so I kept it really simple. When you're thinking about financial literacy curriculum, I want you to think, how are we gonna educate them? How are we gonna empower them? And how will they now go and disruptivate next? Thank you so much. Thank you. Did I take a question, if there's anyone, or we're good? Or you can see me afterwards. For what? So our program, the youth actually come from every school, so they're able to come remotely. We do a lot of things virtually, and then we also have in-person curriculum for our Leadership Academy students, but they come from schools all over. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Are we good? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I can't even take the credit because Usher is the one that said, you know what, we need to take our program beyond high school and we need to take it into the college level. So we have a college level program called the Moguls in Training. Those youth are actually represent colleges all over the country. It's completely remote. And we do the financial literacy curriculum with the MITs, with our Moguls in Training. And remember, those college students are the ones that I'm talking about. They're the ones that are now my peer trainers. Right? Yes, yes. I think what you should do is scan that QR code. That's the best way. Great. I'll take more questions downstairs.